against the empire. They're the cause of most wars everywhere, and our children will never know a peaceful world, because there's no profit in peace. These wars will never cease. So it's up to all of us still do our share. His fake democracy. That's why we killed John Kennedy. He refused to play the game, and the media covered him. That's their job, covering up things they don't want everyone to know about. Fight back against the empire. They're the cause of most wars everywhere, and our children will never know a peaceful world, because of no profit in peace. These wars will never cease. So it's up to all of us to do our share. Yeah, 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 yeah. Fucking right. La 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 democracy. That's why they killed John Kennedy. He refused to play the game, and the media covered him. Fight back, fight back. Fight back.
Warning about the military-industrial complex. Out of the $1.1 trillion U.S. tax dollars used for discretionary spending in 2015, an insane 54%, or $599 billion, goes purely to military expenses. To put in perspective, America spends more on its military than the next 7 countries combined. Compare that to only 6% spent on education and a pathetic 6% on healthcare. Even more infuriating are the billions of dollars the U.S. throws at useless military toys. For example, America just bought itself a sweet $13 billion warship to fight all of our upcoming ocean battles. What else could $13 billion pay for? Oh, just over 305,000 teachers' salaries, send over 1.5 million students to college for free, or house 1.3 million people, more than double the amount of homeless in America. Why is such an outrageous squandering of resources acceptable? Because the empire has also installed a propaganda arm to propagate a culture of fear and militarism. But even with the corporate media at its whim, people see through the lies. Ben Griffin, a former British Special Forces soldier, talks about the fantasies versus realities of war.
We were attacking families in their homes at night, taking away their men to be tortured in prison.
When you hear just the term empire and you see that, you were working British Special Forces and you see the American hegemon, I mean, how do you think this partnership works to kind of carry out the empire?
I think there's a lot of self-interest involved in that. So America is expanding its empire, and Britain has worked out in its own self-interest that the most profitable place to be is tucked in nice and close to the American eagle, because we get amazing benefits from that too, in all sorts of different ways. So I think that's the kind of relationship I like to think of America as Nazi Germany, and we're Austria, Yeah, that's how I see it.
It's interesting. I mean, in the past, Britain was kind of this unabashed empire, just openly conquering, holding colonial subjects all over the world. Has that premise really changed today?
I really think the American empire has kind of like taken the place of the British Empire, but they're doing it in a much different way. So rather than physically controlling it with like an imperial force and a bureaucracy, it's, you put an American base in, you sell them some weapons, you get them to be kind of on your side, as it were, and then call in favours when they're required.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's about dominating also the wealth of the whole area, and they're violent. Empires don't expand by knocking on their next door neighbour's door and saying, "Hey, do you want to be part of my empire? I'm gonna be in charge. You get to do what I tell you." It's always violent. And if we look at American foreign policy, it ticks all of those boxes. I voluntarily went to Iraq. I voluntarily went to Afghanistan. Those people that we occupied, they didn't volunteer for any of this. We set upon them like bullies. And people back home need to realise that. We need to try and help people to empathise with the people of Iraq, the people of Gaza, the people of Afghanistan, and get them to think, what would this be like if this was happening to me? How would I feel?
Like days of old, the empire only unleashes its military to protect its own power and wealth. It uses it as a battering ram for its economic policies and deploys a transnational corporate capitalist power structure, which prioritizes profit over the welfare of the planet. Through extortion and subjugation, organizations like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank have created new forms of debt slavery and colonialism. All U.S. Marines learn about Major General Smedley Butler, who at the time of his death in 1940 was the most decorated Marine in U.S. history, winning 5 medals for heroism. But what Marines aren't told is that Butler became one of the most outspoken critics of U.S. militarism. He said, "War is just a racket. A racket is best described, I believe, as something that is not what it seems to the majority of the people. Only a small inside group knows what it's about. It's conducted for the benefit of the very few at the expense of the masses." I served in all commissioned ranks from second lieutenant to major general, and during that period I spent most of my time being a high-class muscle man for big business, for Wall Street, and for the bankers. In short, I was a racketeer, a gangster for capitalism. I helped make Mexico safe for American oil interests in 1914. I helped make Haiti and Cuba a decent place for the National City Bank boys to collect revenues in. I helped in the raping of 6 Central American republics for the benefits of Wall Street. And I helped purify Nicaragua for the International Banking House of Brown Brothers. I brought light to the Dominican Republic for American sugar interests in 1916. In China, I helped to see it that Standard Oil won its way unmolested. 9/11 presented another golden opportunity for the empire. It exploited fear and tragedy to pillage resources across the Middle East. Its threat clear: conform to our rule or face destruction. At home, the empire ensured a permanent war economy by institutionalizing the collusion between government and big business. In 2008, the Government Accountability Office found that a startling 52 of the biggest defense contractors employed over 2,400 former generals, senior executives, and officers. A whopping 70% of the top generals who retired between 2009 and 2011 stepped directly into positions in the defense industry. Lobbying for war is even more blatant. Of the top 10 corporate PAC donors in 2015, half were defense contractors and war profiteers. And what do you know? Turns out that the top 4 politicians with the most authority over defense spending are also the top 4 recipients of defense behemoth Lockheed Martin. The bedrock of America is the myth of democracy, that somehow empire will dismantle itself if the right leaders are elected. Then we can just go back to what the founding fathers intended this country to be. But America was founded on colonization, the extermination of an indigenous population, and the enslavement of an entire race, all of which laid the foundation to its rise to empire. At home, the empire rots. Economic warfare abounds. In the richest country in human history, millions sit in poverty. Militarized riot cops stalk with impunity. Racism entrenched. The surveillance state spies unhinged, and political opposition incessantly quashed. The system can't afford alternatives, and we've seen how far it will go, with no remorse. It's a machine that runs on death and destruction, killing thousands of our brothers and sisters every day. But every empire falls. And the history of empire is the history of resistance to it, where people have won time and again against impossible odds to defeat their subjugation. A world dominated by U.S. hegemony and the corporate power structure it serves is cracking. And our digital age provides the great ability to build empathy, consciousness, and global solidarity. Information is power. We need to fight to unmask the empire every day in order to stop it. And every file here is a tool that will arm us in battle. Abby Martin, logging out.